Hello, so this evening we're taking a look at the PC-6 developed by Milviz, or as they are now known, Blackbird Simulations. I've just bought this from them. It's been out for a very long time for Flight Simulator, and I've heard really good things about it, so I thought it's about time I had a look at it, because the PC-6 that came with the simulator isn't really very good. Obviously this is a payware version, so it's had a lot more attention spent on it, and the flight model, the avionics, everything is a lot better. So let's go and jump inside the aeroplane, and the first thing we're going to do is we'll get rid of our passenger so we don't have the person. So in common with lots of the other aeroplanes in the sim, all we have to do is go and zero out the weight for the passenger and they disappear. And then we can open a tablet down here. Now you'll notice this comes up with a black screen. This is a bit of a bug from Sim Update 10, and this threw me to begin with. I thought the aeroplane was broken. No, it's not. As of Sim Update 10, Asobo very helpfully have set the dimmer knob to 0 on just about everything. So as soon as you turn that up, you get the tablet and the screens. So there we go. So you get a configuration tablet inside the aircraft, so you can set up fuel. You can also set up the configuration, so you've got fuel, passengers and cargo, and configuration. So obviously if we turn up the cargo load, we can play games with seeing things in the back of the hold, and if we turn it up a bit more, obviously you get more and more boxes appear. So if we go for the full amount, probably have lots and lots. Yeah, just bigger boxes, I guess. Okay, so we've done that. Let's pull this back to 0. We're just going to fly around today and see how it handles. We can go for passengers instead. So if you do that, you get seats in the back. And obviously we can put people in them if we really want to. But it doesn't draw people. Okay, which is a bit of a shame, but then the people always look a bit scary anyway when you put them in the airplanes. If you do a skydiving loadout, you obviously get a dive meter, and the doors are changed to make them much more accessible. There's a sliding door there, which does slide. Okay, so if we go into configuration, you can see we had a load of covers on the aircraft, so we'll go and remove all of those. We don't want to see the co-pilot, so I think that's everything. So we'll go and close that. Okay, so how do we get the airplane started up? First thing we need to do is check the lock under here is not pivoted forwards. If you click on it, you can see it pivots forwards, and once you've done that, I'm trying to wiggle the stick round and obviously it's not moving because it's locked. So if we go and release that, then we can move the controls, which is good. Otherwise we can't fly the airplane. We need to check the parking brake is set, so if you just have a look over here, whoops, I didn't mean to move that. Let's just pull that back to cut off. Notice it's got all these nice little gadgets around cut-offs and things. So there's a cable here, which is the parking brake. Obviously you can see if it's down, then it's off. If you pull it, then it's on. Battery master goes to on. So battery master is over here. And it's the first switch. Then fuel valve goes to open. That's over here. Let's just zoom down so you can see it. There's a little valve here, so you flick that round and it locks to the on position. Avionics bus 1 we put to on. That's over here. So that comes on and the screens boot up. And you get a full boot up sequence. This is the NXI that was updated with Sim Update 10. So we'll just go and wait for those to boot up. And while we're waiting for that, we can go and turn on the auxiliary fuel over here. Auxiliary fuel pump, there we go. And okay, so we're just still waiting for this to boot up. Give it a few seconds. While we're doing that, that's interesting, look, we can now, if we do this with the mouse, will that lock out? That is interesting. I managed to move that earlier, didn't I? In such a way that it locked out, and now it won't. Interesting. Anyway, we'll leave it alone for the moment. So, we turn the auxiliary fuel on. Right, we go for starting now for the engine. So, starter is over here. And we're looking at the numbers to make sure everything's coming up okay. We're looking for the oil pressure to build up. And then we hit ignition as well. We move this up to idle. Or low idle, I should say. Aha! Now it has come across. Now we've got pressure from the engine is working. Or maybe there's just a delay on it. I'll have to have a play with that. Okay. So once the engine has stabilised, we can turn the starter off and turn the ignition back off. So those covers can come back down over those switches. And we are keeping an eye on the temperatures here. The ITT should stay under 600, which it has done, which is good. We can now move the propeller pitch to full forwards. So there we go. So looking at the quadrant here, just to give you some idea, this is the engine condition, and then you've got the propeller condition on this side, and then the throttle in the middle. Okay, that's done. I'm just reading a paper checklist, or some scribbled notes I should say, while we're doing this. Generators go to on now, now the engine's up and running. So generator is over here. You can reset the generator as well here. And then we go to Avionics 2, which is behind the condition lever here. And then the Avionics bus tie button has to be in, which it is in. And then after that we can just go and switch some lights on, and then we can go for a flight. So now flights, we should have had the beacon light on, to be honest. Lights. Okay, so I think we're looking good. Right, let's go for a fly. So you can see the plane is moving around. I've got FS Realistic on as well, which is obviously going to accentuate the aircraft moving around as well, which is good. So let's go and reset those warnings. Let's come off the parking brake. You can see there's positive thrust straight away. Quite interesting, isn't it, that it will manoeuvre on the ground like that. It's a different story than lots of other planes. So I'm just going to pull the condition back. So we'll taxi down to this end of the runway. Press space to look over the nose. It's worth looking at these. I think you can pull these up somehow. There's probably a click spot on them, but I don't want to accelerate too hard down the runway. Go back in the cockpit. Okay, so condition forwards. It's a tail dragger, you have to remember that. Flaps to takeoff position, and we've got a hell of a crosswind today. So you see I'm struggling to hold it on the centre line, and we're up pretty easily. Flaps up. Throttle back. You see visibility out of the sides is very good. Should we get rid of the comm radio and shut them up? we go. So let's have a look at it from outside. Now we're in the air. So it's really nicely modelled. You can see the heat haze coming out of the exhausts, and in common with lots of other planes in this. Oh no, this one does the heat haze on both sides. Some planes only do it on one side, which has always kind of intrigued me. I wondered if it's a development limitation. Obviously not. So this is Mariposa Airfield, just southwest of Yosemite. Okay, so in terms of the avionics suite you obviously get the NXI G1000. You also get an autopilot, which the stock PC-6 and the simulator doesn't have, I don't think. So at least you get to fly this on autopilot, and it's a stock autopilot. You know, it's what model is the exact one? It's a Cap 140, which is pretty straightforward to use. You set altitudes and arm them. Got vertical speed, heading, nav, approach. You've got reverse to do back courses, and altitude hold. Obviously the GPS system is the same as usual, so you can go in here and you can program flight plans as you normally would. I'm going to do a video at some point specifically about this, because I've had a little nose around in it. It's actually really nice. Let's just cancel out of there. So if we press flight plan again, it will come back out. I have to say the modelling of this is really, really nice. I wonder where the clicks are. The click spots are on the outsides of this then, to get the covers out of the way. Okay, so if we come off the throttle, speed bleeds off pretty quickly. We'll go down to the other end to land. Just looking at the wind direction, we've got a tailwind at the moment. I'm just looking at this little indicator here on the corner of the G1000. Looks very realistic, doesn't it? The insides of the cockpit are wonderfully modelled. Obviously all the breakers work, so you can play all kinds of games with. Well, actually no, some of them don't. Interesting. Things like the windows and doors all work though, and they affect the sound, and you have three-dimensional sound, which is quite cool. You can crack these doors open while you're flying. Okay, let's see if we can land this thing. I've noticed it does like a small amount of thrust over the control surfaces. It won't glide very well. Kind of tends to dive towards the floor. Let's get our view up a little bit. Well, look at that crosswind.
Better than that.
That's FS Realistic kicking in. Let's come back round, see if we can give ourselves a bit more time and a bit better attempt. Flight Simulator is uncanny sometimes, isn't it? It just looks so real. And I know this is probably going to be a controversial thing to say, but I flew X-plane for a very long time. And obviously I'm not a real pilot, but judging on the behaviour of the plane and reading other pilots, real-world pilots that have been weighing in on this, Flight Sim has caught up with X-plane and superseded it. I've seen several accounts now from real-world pilots looking at, you know, people who train in GA aircraft and 737 pilots as well, and have said this has absolutely caught up with anything else out there in the consumer realm, at least. Okay, let's turn this in towards the runway. Centre our view up. It's quite nice that on the raised view you can still see the indicated airspeed. That's always a bugbear of mine when you have to fiddle with the camera view to get a nice view. See if we can do a bit better job this time. Oh, look at that crosswind. Just as we got past the tree line.
Stop.
It's quite a loud klaxon, isn't it? Okay, so our chatty co-pilot didn't have anything to say that time from FS Realistic, which is quite interesting. Let's have a look at this from outside, see where we are. I'm not sure what the ground handling is like. In common with lots of other tail draggers, if you've got a small amount of thrust, as long as you hold back stick, it forces the tail well into the ground and you don't lose any purchase on the ground, so it makes it a lot easier to steer. The wings are tipping, look, you have to be very careful about turning. Of course it doesn't help that I have the propeller condition such a long way forwards. That's interesting, look. So you can feather the propeller really nicely. It does have reverse thrust as well, so let's just give that a quick go. So if we push that back to full on there, and then we'll push the engines into reverse. That's quite interesting. So obviously we can then I'm impressed with it, I really am. Okay, should we bring it to an end here? So obviously just to cut the engine, we just need to pull the fuel back to cutoff. And then generator can come back off, fuel pump can come off, the avionics can come off, the lights can come off, and the battery can come off, and we're back to where we started. So let's have a play with some of those doors and things now. Now we've come to a halt. So can we, yeah, we can open the doors now. Look, now there's no wind pushing them back, which is quite cool. So the big side door will slide back. I think these ones open as well, so yeah, we can push that one. I'm not sure that we can push the second one unless there's a click spot I don't know about on it. I've no doubt that it is, you can open it, I just don't know how. It's not the handle, is it? It's very, very cool, isn't it? So we see if the passenger door on this side opens as well. It should do, because everything else seems to work. Yeah, it does. Very good. In an emergency... Oh, you can take the doors off of the hinges. That's what that's for. So yeah, you can and it does simulate it. It removes it from the model. Unfortunately, they don't fall on the floor and smash, which is be a bit of a shame. So yeah, you can actually remove the pilot and co-pilot door completely. I'm really impressed with it. I can see myself doing some kind of low, slow flying around the hills and mountains in this thing. Anyway, there you go. There's the PC-6 from Milviz, or Blackbird Simulations as they are now known. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.